What you're seeing on screen is my old podcast website. You'll notice at the bottom, it says your website subscription has expired. And that is because 2 weeks ago, I canceled my Squarespace subscription and I switched over to Notion and Super to host my website. So here's what it looks like now. Now, I am in love with this updated website, not just because I'm a big fan of minimalist design and I love Notion, but because it saved me so much time in my content production workflow, and it just makes things so much easier as a solo podcaster. Now, in this video, we're gonna do three things. Number one, we're gonna go through the pain points I had as a solo podcaster trying to keep my own website up to date. Number two, we're gonna go through the benefits of using Notion as your CMS. Now, if you don't know what CMS means, it stands for Content Management System. In simple words, why Notion is better than using Squarespace, WordPress, Shopify, Webflow, whatever you're using. And last but certainly not least, we're going to be creating a fictitious podcast website step by step using this template. Now, we're going to be covering a lot, so feel free to use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead. Now let's get started. All right, so let's start with the pain points of being a solo podcaster and using one of these platforms like Squarespace or WordPress or whatever it may be. The first thing is I felt like I was spending too much time updating the website. Let me give you some context here. What I had to do for every episode is create a new blog post in here. And I had to add the graphic right here as the main kind of cover photo. And then I also had to add the graphic here, basically uploading that, adding all these links, copying and pasting this section from Notion into here. And then adding the title and the YouTube video. I had to do this on each page, but then coming back to the home page, I also had to add the graphic here and then also the title and the episode number here and then link back to that blog post. It was a two-step process I had to do for each podcast episode. Now, it's just a two-step process technically, yes, but it's not a value-added two-step. It's not actually helping us create more content or reach new people. So it just felt like unnecessary work. The other thing was about this website when I first got it, there's two things. So the first thing is that when I first took this template off the Squarespace template gallery, it was built for podcasts. I actually think it looked really nice the way it was in the template gallery as the example. And so I basically added all our content. And I think it looks okay, don't get me wrong. But over time, I just feel like at this point, it really needed an update. And to do it in Squarespace and use like another template would just take so much effort with like 60 episodes where I got to copy and paste all these text blocks and then also add images and everything. The second thing is we also added a newsletter and video essays to the content that we were creating. And I just couldn't figure out where on the website it should go, where it'd be a natural fit. Like the way this template that we used from Squarespace is set up is it's highlighting one type of content, which is podcast. So I wasn't really sure how to go about even adding video essays. Would it be a separate page here? Would it be on the home page? And for the newsletter, how would we do that as well? So those were the main pain points that I had with using Squarespace. Now, here's where Notion comes in. The first thing is that it's so much easier to add pictures, videos, audio. Literally, you just copy and paste the link and an option will come up to actually create embed, and it'll automatically embed the video or the audio into your website. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say embed, if we go back to this website, we go to podcast and we just click a random episode, for example. Let's just go to this one. This is what I mean. Like all I have to do is copy and paste the link here and it'll show up like this, which is a stark difference from adding a YouTube video onto Squarespace, for example. You have to click the plus button to add a media block and then add the link into that media block to get this to show up. So it's like 3 steps where Notion is able to do that in like 1.5 step technically. The next benefit of using Notion is that it made my content workflow so much smoother and better. I was already doing my planning and actual post-production work, like writing the summaries and key lessons and stuff in Notion. And so instead of having to copy and paste everything onto a separate platform, it was already there. I just had to make the website or that Notion page live. The third thing is I really love the way Notion pages look. It's just nice, clean, minimalist. Even if you just have text on the page, I feel like Notion looks much nicer than if you just had a blank white Squarespace or WordPress page. The next benefit is databases. This is the big one. I actually wanted to create starter packs for my podcast since I noticed on Jordan Harbinger's website, he had starter packs. So he basically had episodes broken up by category. So like business podcast, comedy podcast, actors, whatever it may be. And I felt like it was such a good way to organize such a large library of content and give people a starting point. And I was like, I want to do that with my content, but trying to do that in Squarespace just felt like so much work. Like, how do I actually even organize it? What's nice about Notion is that we have a master database here. So if you take a look at this podcast, we have a master database, and one of the columns in this master database is tags. And so as I'm adding the episode information, like the title, episode summary, key lessons and stuff, I'm also adding these tags about which section or which category my podcast episode falls into. And once I have those tags, I can then filter out this master database and create different views for different tags. And that's how we created starter packs on this website. So if you take a look at starter packs here, we have personal branding, brand strategists, founder stories, brick and mortar, cars, marketing experts. And if you look at here, it's basically the same database, but just different views that are sorted for this tag. So in personal branding is just episodes that have the tag of personal branding in them. Brand strategists is just the same. Again, it's the same master database, but filtered for the tag brand strategy. Same thing for founder stories, just founder has to be in the tags, and that's what it's filtered for. Now you can create tags and organize your content by tags in other CMSs as well, but I love the way these linked views of the databases actually look, and I feel like it's really nice. And it gives you a lot of flexibility. If you don't like the database look, you can also try gallery or board, whatever you want. You can filter it for the types of content and have different views. So all you have to do is update your content in that master database, make sure the properties are selected properly, and then every other place on the website where your database is referenced will automatically get updated. And moving on to the next benefit, which is page templates, I'm going to show you how this works. So basically, if we go into the website and we go into our podcast, if we want to create a new podcast episode, for example, we can create this and we can click this podcast episode template and it'll pre-fill a picture here, listen now, episode summary, key lessons, full episode transcript, and links mentioned in the show. This is the page format we use for all of our podcast episodes. So with a click of a button, you have this pre-filled, and all you have to do is tweak it to the episode that you have. This saves a lot of time and is super helpful. Now, the next thing about Notion is that the links are dynamic. So if you link to another Notion page in your workspace, if the location changes of that page or the title changes or some other feature changes in that page, your link will automatically get fixed and go to the right spot. You won't end up having dead links. And last but not least, Notion has a mobile app and a tablet app. So wherever you are, whether you have a mobile phone with you or an iPad, it's super easy to keep your website content up to date. You can make changes from anywhere. All right, now that you know why it's such a good idea to switch to Notion, let's do this together step by step. I'm going to do this for a fictitious podcast called the All Things Elon Podcast, where we talk about all the projects and things that Elon is working on. All right, the first thing we're going to do is download the template and duplicate it to our workspace. So if you want the template, the link is in the description. Now, just some context here. This is a paid template. So this website template is a paid template. However, if you're not in a position where you can buy this right now, you can just create a separate Notion page and follow along, and you can create your own style. This is just a starting point. The idea is to try to save you as much time as possible, but you can just follow along and do it your own way. And you should be able to get to the same result that we have here, or even better, make it your own, So when you click the link to download, it'll open up a PDF and it'll have a link to this page here. So what we're going to do on this page is click duplicate. And we're going to duplicate this into our Falcon Notes workspace because that's where I like to do most of my work. And then I'm going to close out of this web view and open this up in Notion. So if you look at the side here, just so you know where it is, this part-time podcaster website is in our private. So just because I have a few of these, of course, since it's a template. So just so I'm not confused, this is where we're going to go. So we open up my Notion. And on the side, you can see here, part-time podcaster website. All right, so our title for the podcast is All Things Elon. Now let's stylistically make some changes here. Let's turn this into a rocket. Let's change this into something related to Elon Musk. I like this because they're working on that robot thing. Cool. That's pretty cool. Over here, let's just add a brief description. And the cool thing is, if you're not sure what to put, you don't have to make something up. The cool thing is you can ask AI to make something up for you. So we're just going to do that. You just hit space and you can start asking Notion AI to write for you. So I'm going to say, can write a description for a podcast about the different projects that Elon Musk is working on. Okay. Perfect. I think this is good enough. I'm just going to get rid of this. We don't necessarily need that here. And then, boom, we'll just delete this. Now, if this was an actual website and an actual podcast, I would tweak this and make it better. But, I think this will do because we're just trying to get this done quickly. So next thing we're going to do is resources, PDFs, courses. We don't need this section here. So I'm just going to get rid of it. So just drag and delete. All right, so we're assuming here we're just getting the podcast up and running. We don't have any other content, and we want to start and really just keep it focused on the podcast. But just so you have an idea, this is what it looks like in video essays. It is just pages of some of the video essays we have. It's just the YouTube video linked for some of them, and then for some of them, we also have like an article type thing to go with it, with pictures and that kind of thing. Now, if this was more, like let's say this was like 20, 30 video essays that we had, we would basically add a property in the master podcast database for type, where you can select podcast, video essay, or article. And we'd then start, we just use a filtered view of this database in the video essay section. But since we only have a few, we don't necessarily feel like we need to do that right now. And for the purposes of this podcast, All Things Elon, we don't have a newsletter right now. This is what the newsletter looks like. It's basically just an explanation, some of the latest issues, and then a email form to sign up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get rid of this other content. Oh, sorry, that's me. We're just going to get rid of this other content section here. All right, so now what we have is podcast and work with us. And we don't necessarily need to have both of these. And for context, if you actually open these up, this was actually written by Notion AI, both of these. I just had Notion AI write these. So what we're going to do is we're just going to delete these both, and we're going to create new pages. So let's delete these. And let's say we want Elon Musk consulting. And what that is basically you want to learn to be more like Elon Musk. And what we'll do is have AI write the landing page for it. Write a landing page for a company that does Elon Musk consultations for people that want to learn to be more like Elon Musk. Okay, let's see what it comes up with. Not bad. And so this is a good starting point. Let's just remove this number because it's not a real number. And let's get rid of this email protected as well. And what we'll do is we'll add a form here in Contact Us. And how we're going to do that is let's first remove Contact Us now to get started. And what we'll do is we'll open up All Things Elon contact form. And we'll just add a section here. This is Google Forms, by the way. If you don't know what Google Forms is, you can just go to Google and search forms, and this will be up there. And you can basically, if you have a Google Drive account or a Gmail account, you should be able to create a form that will basically send to your email, and it'll be in your Google Drive. And so we'll ask for people's emails. We'll ask a multiple choice. Which consultation service are you inquiring about? Let's say business, leadership, startup ideas, work ethic coaching. These are just fake ideas again. And what we can have here in this message thing, just other notes. We'll make this a required thing, and we'll make this optional. And so what we'll do then is in settings, let's do responses. Okay, let's make this open to public, and let's do collect the emails, and let's send the people that sign up a copy of their responses. So basically now what we're going to do is we're going to go to send, and let's just put this, let's shorten the URL, copy this form, and then what we'll do is go back to Notion, contact us now, we'll highlight this, and we'll Command K and Command V, boom. So now what'll happen is if we click here, it'll open this page up, and you can fill out what kind of consultation you're on. Now you have a form on your podcast page for consultations, and basically AI did all the work. For consultations, we can add phone call. I always just like adding these little covers here. Let's add someone in space. Reposition this. Okay. So now we have, let's change this to consultation. All right, now let's get back to the actual work that we're trying to do here, which is actually creating podcast episodes in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this page, which has the master podcast database. And then for some context, this podcast starter pack has views of this database. And we're going to change these so they actually fit what we're trying to do here. So in the master database, we're actually first, let's just get rid of what's in here. You can tweak what's in here by just changing the text and stuff, but I'd rather just start fresh. And let's say this is, I don't know, Tesla Q4 2023 projections. Okay. And then we'll just create another couple ideas. X roadmap for 2024. And then we'll add Starlink progress as of September 2023. Okay, just fictitious examples. And then we can add guests if you want. Kimball Musk. We'll have Harvey Specter on this one. And then Starlink progress, we can have Jeff Bezos as a guest on here. And this is episode number, 1, 2, 3. And then what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to delete all these. This is what was kind of saved from what I had. And we'll just do this one by one. I don't know that there's a faster way to do this. And as I'm making a note of this, I'll actually reduce the number of types that we have in the template so you don't have to go and remove like 30 of these types. We'll probably just leave 2 or 3 in there just so you know, as an example, what it's used for. So over here, we're going to put Tesla X Starlink space. That's probably under SpaceX, right? But regardless, yeah, we'll just do those 3 just to keep it easy. And then for this one, this will be Tesla. This will be X. This will be SpaceX. And let's actually delete Starlink. And then the date, let's just say these were already posted. September 8th, September 11th, let's do 12th. And then let's do September 15th. All right, so now we have the basis of our podcast. We have the basic information that'll show up there, but now we have to fill out the meat of it. And so we have this podcast template included in here. And what you can do is actually add the audio for the episode and, add a picture if you want. I'm just gonna get rid of this picture. And what we'll do is just find, we'll actually just do this from Unsplash actually. Or no, let's go to YouTube and find a video. Tesla Q4 2023. All right, so this is not the actual podcast, of course, but let's just use this video as an example, assuming that this is what we're gonna do. And here's what I meant by you can one-click embed this, boom, create the embed. Now it's there, right? And so you don't have to basically, in other CMSs, you would basically have to add a video type, like a video block, and then add the actual link in the video block. And then over here, we can just, again, we'll just use Notion AI. Write a description about a podcast talking about Tesla's Q4 projections. Oh, this is actually pretty cool. So the AI used the information on the page to actually create an to include in the summary. So Kimball Musk, it took from the guest and it included this here. And so, we're not going to fill the rest of this out because I think you get the point. We can do the same thing for all of these. And so here's what happens when we go back to our page for all podcast episodes. This is what people will see, and then they can click on this and it'll show them this. And so you can do the same thing for these other ones, and we're not going to fill it out, but we'll just open the template just so that they do have a page that's clickable, so that when we actually make this live on the site, it makes sense. Now let's go back here and edit the starter packs. So all we're going to do here is, let's actually first change the cover. Let's actually use one of the default space ones that they have. And then we'll use this. This crane one is a good one, I think, for this one. All right, now what we're going to do here is change these headings. So we'll do Tesla, and then we'll change the emoji here. Car. And then we'll change this heading here to SpaceX, and we'll do the rocket ship here. And then this last one, we'll do X, and we'll just do a phone here. Phone. And then the rest of these, we will just delete. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to filter these out by tags. And so in this table, the first view, we're going to do just Tesla. And then the next one, we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to make sure. Okay, yep, that one's good to go. Next one, we're going to do filter by just SpaceX. And then the last one we're going to do is we're going to filter by just X. Cool. Now we have, starter packs for anyone that wants to just learn about Tesla. They can come on this starter pack page and just go to Tesla. And here are the episodes. They can click into this. They'll get the actual episode. They'll have the video. They'll have links to all the platforms, and they'll also have a summary, lessons, transcript, and any links that you want to add. So now let's go back and just take a look at our completed website. So this is pretty much it. This is like keeping it simple. Now, of course, you can always add like an about page or other pages you want to. But the point of this is to help you get the actual podcast organized and, able to basically show it in different ways with starter packs. That's the main purpose of this. And of course, you can, create other pages you want, format it however you want. I actually like having these side by side, so let's try this. And let's move these into this one. So podcasts and consultations. And so now all that's left to do is to make this live on the website. And so what we're going to do first off, before we do anything, is we're going to publish this, publish to web. We'll actually allow search and indexing as well. And then we'll go view site. Let's pull it up. And boom, this is what your site's going to look like if you just use the Notion link. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to use Super to create an actual website. So if you're not familiar with Super, we're going to go to Super.so. If you haven't used it before, you can get started, create an account, and then you'll get to the dashboard. We already have an account, so we'll just go and sign in, and we'll just hit Create Site here, and we'll call it All Things Elon. And then this is why it was important to get that link. So let's go back here. Let's just copy the link just to make sure we have it right. And let's go back. Boom, Create Site. And the cool thing about this is that even at this point, you have just made live all things elon.super.site as a website. So this is actually live. You know, you can open this up and you'll have this website here. And it'll look almost the same as it would look in Notion. Now, the difference here is like when you're hovering over these database things, it doesn't say open, it doesn't, you know, do those things like that, but you can still click into these and you have that page there. And so one of the things that I actually really like about Super is that it keeps the breadcrumbs. Here's what I mean by that. So like when you go to podcast starter packs, you can see how you got there from the top. There's one thing that I like about Notion, and I really like that, you know, Super allows you to keep that functionality. And there's a couple other things we can do in Super that I'll walk you through, but this isn't a Super video, so I'm not going to go too in depth here. If you want to connect a custom domain, where you're going to go here in domains, what we can even do here is Elon Pod. That's available. That's a nicer title. So elon-pod.super.site is your website. If you want to add a custom domain, you can buy a custom domain from Super itself here, or you can go back and if you have a domain already, you can connect the domain. You're going to have to pay for it, which is, I mean, these are pretty normal hosting prices. And then you can connect it to whatever, like if you have Elon, allthingselon.com, for example, you can connect it to that. And so when you sign up for the actual subscription, it'll give you the DNS settings. You'll have to add the CNAME records into your domain provider, and then it'll be able to connect this and make it live on the site. We're not going to go through that in this video, but we are working on another video where we go through that in depth. A couple other things I wanted to go through. If you go to pages here, you'll see the actual site hierarchy of pages and how it kind of lays it out. Now, for the most part, this is usually pretty accurate, but you do see a couple things where you have to rearrange things, and that'll just be for your sitemap purposes. But if you want to make like changes to the page, like SEO settings and stuff, you can do that from here. So you can change the title, change the description, you can add an image. By default, it'll have what you have in your title and then like your first few lines or whatever. And as we're in this page, just notice that I didn't actually update the description of this page. So we could even just change it over here if we don't want to change it in Notion for whatever reason, or if it was different in Notion. So what we should probably actually do is just copy this. In-depth discussions. Let's just copy this part and put it in right here. Right here, actually. The Things Elon podcast, where we have in-depth discussions and expert. Good enough. Okay. Now, if we go back to Super, you'll notice that changes are not real time, but they're pretty close. So we just refresh this. You know, maybe one more time it'll pop up here. Hopefully. Yeah, see. All Things Elon podcast. Boom. So it's not like real time, but it's pretty close. And so you can also go and change the actual SEO from this SEO on whatever page you're on. So we can change this. So whatever page you're on, you can just go to this SEO tab here. Now, as I was saying, for the most part, the actual hierarchy is pretty good and it matches up what you see in Notion. Sometimes it's not. So like, for example, all podcast episodes should have the pages that are in all podcast episodes. So like these should be in here and not somewhere else. So like, let's see. Yeah, Elon Musk just has that one page. And so these pages should actually be in all podcast steps. So we can either keep it in podcast starter packs or we can move it in here. So I'm just going to move in here just so, whoops, it should go in here. And then X should go in here too. Okay, so now our hierarchy is correct. Next thing we can do is tweak design. So if we go, you can change the site colors, typography. If you don't like the font that's default in Notion, you can change that on your website. You can change database settings. You can play around with these settings in here. Next thing that I like to add is a navigation bar. And so, a site like this where you only have a couple pages, you probably don't even need a navigation bar. But if you wanted to add it, you just add this navigation bar. You can add balance, minimal, simple, whatever you want. And then you can just add the actual navigation items here. So you can add, let's say you want to add a link to the podcast, and then it'll just link to all podcast. Oops. And then you can also add just like a link to another website or something, like your YouTube page, for example, YouTube. And then let's just add, let's say, Tesla YouTube. So let's just add Tesla's YouTube channel as one of the links here. Boom. Okay, and then we just save this. So you can see at the top we have podcast YouTube. And we go back to navbar. You can also change the size. You can add like an emoji here. Let's add a rocket to the beginning, actually. So when you add the nav bar, it actually takes away the breadcrumbs by default. I actually like to keep it on my website, so you can do that. So I actually like to keep that on. And then you can also style the actual nav bar itself. So let's save this and go to style. You can change the actual colors of the text, the background. So for example, let's make this color, just as an example. You can play around with it however you want. The next thing over here, you can add a footer to the website. Let's just add in the corner, and then let's just add a link back to the podcast page. Now that's just to give you an example. So this is what it'll look like. Your website will have this footer over there. And if you don't like this, of course, you can play around with the settings in the footer as well. So let's just say you want floating. It changes it a little bit, as you can see. You can also stack it, which brings it to the middle. You can take off the logo and text if you want, or keep it there. And you can add an image, whatever you want. And then you can also make some stylistic changes. So let's make the background, a weird color like that. You can also do dark mode, by the way. All right, and the last thing we're going to cover in this video is options here. A cool thing you can do in here is actually enable site search. So especially if you have a lot of content, a lot of podcast episodes, you can allow people to search through and find what they're looking for. As you can see here, I added a little search thing to the top right. These are other options you can do. Another cool thing that is pretty cool is you can have an option to enable light mode or dark mode. So what this does is has this little sunshine logo thing here. And when you click it, it actually turns your whole page into dark mode, or that'll turn it into light mode. So those are some pretty cool things. Let's just save these. And then once they're saved, let's open up the site again. And you can see here, we have dark mode here, and we can also search. Let's do Q4, Tesla Q4 projections, and it'll take us right to that page. So pretty cool what you can do just with Super and Notion. If you have any questions, please comment below. We'd be happy to look into it, get back to you. And remember, if you want to download this template, the link is in the description. If you do end up using this template and you make your website live, please do share it with us. We love to see the work that comes from these templates.